Hey everybody, I have completely missed Larry Stylinson the last 3 days. I've tried to post, but I was away on a training and oh my God, it was amazing. And it, I couldn't help but think of Larry throughout the training, and it was pretty intense because it was out in New Jersey. So, given that I'm on the West Coast, I was waking up at 6 a.m., well, 5 a.m. my time in my internal time clock, and then going from 6 a.m. till 3 p.m., but then still having other things to do. But damn, I miss Larry. Good Lord. Okay, so I wanted to kind of weave in my most recent training and how it inspired this very interesting Larry video. So hopefully you guys will like it. If not, well, don't worry. I'm going to go back to the standard fan decoding. But this is sort of something very close to me now because my brain spotting training was pretty intense, and I did another video on brain spotting in my old channel. So if you're interested in it, I highly suggest taking a look at some of the interviews by Dr. David Grant, who is the developer of brain spotting, because it is a trauma treatment, and part of the training was about processing various forms of trauma, and as we all know, relationships can be pretty damn traumatic, very much so, and it's not just romantically, but just even early childhood relationships. And so this training was an opportunity to process a goodbye I never got to really say, and I thought, wouldn't it be neat to weave all the things I learned into something meaningful for the Larry Stylinson fandom? Because if the theory is true, if Harry Styles and Louis Tomlinson really did have to live closeted for years under industry pressure, then the kind of healing that brain spotting offers could be a life-changing moment for them too. And we do know Harry has talked about therapy. Okay, so what is brain spotting? Brain spotting is a therapeutic method that helps people process unresolved trauma by using where you look with your eyes to access where in the body and in the brain the unprocessed traumatic memory is stored. So, unlike traditional talk therapy, brain spotting bypasses the rational mind and goes straight into the nervous system. And that's where the trauma actually lives. So, in this training, this modality was pretty transformative for the people participating. A lot of them had brain spotting as clients and then were learning how to be practitioners of it, which not just anybody can be a practitioner. Most training, depending on what state you're in, you already have to be licensed. So, in practice, at this 3 day immersive, I found myself processing something deeply personal, which was a goodbye I never got to say. And I realized that this is exactly what happens in closeting situations too. People lose a chance to say goodbye to parts of themselves, to their freedom, to their open expression, and to the honest love. So, what do I mean by the goodbye that I never got to say? So when I say brain spotting helped me process a goodbye, I mean that it gave my body a chance to finish an emotional moment that had been frozen in time. So for years, that moment where I said goodbye to Billy at the bus stop, it lived unconsciously in me like an open file that never quite got closed. I just was not conscious of it. And what I learned is that the nervous system can carry that unfinished business for years. And in some cases, we all hear the stories. These unfinished moments can carry on for decades, God forbid. And this is where it connects to Harry and Louis, aka Larry Stylinson. So I believe it's true, but hypothetically, in case there's people who don't quite believe that it's true and are stumbling upon this video, so let's say that the fan theory is true, that Harry and Louis were secretly in a relationship, married even, and because of the powers that be, were forced into the closet and forced to do stunting with these supposed girlfriends to give off the image of heteronormativity. And what if it was so under the pressure of that, they did break up, and then that would mean you could just imagine the goodbye that they never got to say. So the goodbye to being able to hold hands in public, the goodbye to openly writing love songs without changing pronouns, the goodbye to walking out of a club together without strategizing about paparazzi. All those silences are little extractions. sudden removals from authenticity with no closure. And closeting is a trauma. It's not just a PR strategy. Psychologically, it's a form of trauma and, in a lot of cases, coercive control by those that are imposing the closeting. It forces someone to fragment their identity, to split into a public self and a private self, and to sustain that split under constant pressure. Over time, that creates hypervigilance, body tension, suppressed emotion, and a constant sense of danger. It's almost as if they went to emotional war and came back and have shell shock. The fandom has always speculated that Larry wasn't just a relationship, but also a wound. That even if they've gone their separate ways, if the Hui theory is true, the Houis, which is Larry that broke up is called Hui in the ship name. So if Hui was real, and they did separate, that the years of having to hide would leave scars. So this is where brain spotting came in. It kind of was a bit of a light bulb moment during my training. And it doesn't erase history. So that's the very important thing. EMDR, brain spotting, they resolve and consolidate memory, but they don't erase history and they don't delete memories. What it does, it allows the nervous system to discharge the unfinished pain that, say, a closeting situation and a rupture in a relationship would have created. So how does this brain spotting in action look like? Well, so what would that look like? Say, say this did happen, that they were separated, and Louis and Harry looked for healing, right? So one scenario would be, imagine Louis in a brain spotting session. His eyes drift to a point in the room where his body tenses, and may be linked to a memory of being told he couldn't be seen with Harry in public. He would stay in that body sensation. He'd not be forced to talk. He would just notice what he was feeling and the sensations that come up. His nervous system starts to tremble, release, and process. Or imagine Harry, eyes landing on a point connected to the memory of an interview where he had to deflect, laugh, and pretend. The session helps his body process the humiliation of never being able to say what was really true. Brain spotting would then let both of them renegotiate those moments, not erase them, but integrate them so the pain isn't raw anymore. This is exactly what people experience in brain spotting sessions, in their private therapy, or in the training, like the training I was recently at. So, for example, I couldn't go back in time to that bus stop and change the goodbye I never got, because it was a goodbye, see you later, when really it was actually like au revoir, which is like the French, like goodbye until we meet again, or auf Wiedersehen. Not pronouncing that properly, but auf Wiedersehen is the German of like kind of the goodbye till we meet again. And so it was the aftermath and the shock that, oh my God, that was the last goodbye, and I didn't know it. So if you know it's the last goodbye, or it's the goodbye that's going to be for a long time and you don't know when you'll meet again, you would say goodbye differently, right? And so that, in a way, I could say that moment was robbed of me. So the freeze point, that aftershock happened, the realization that was actually it. Uh, you know, in a lot of ways, my body never got to finish the process, and that changed everything because I got the chance to do it at the brain spotting training, which was looking at a fixed point and working with a facilitator to process the charge, where it is sitting in my body and where it is locked in my mind, like the brain spot of that trauma. And then that's how it moves into the archives. So the memory's still there. It just doesn't. It can't hold you hostage and have you feel like it's happening again when you get reminded. Okay, so why does this matter for all of us? So for the fandom, Larry has always been about more than gossip. It's been about projection, about what it means to love in silence, to carry secrets, to live with unfinished business. That's why people care so much, because whether or not Harry and Louis ever confirm it, the story resonates with anyone who has felt silenced, closeted, or unseen. So brain spotting offers a pathway out of that loop. It's not about exposure or forcing the truth. It's about healing the nervous system so that you can carry love as a memory without being trapped in it. So that whether you're Harry, Louis, or a fan with your own story of hidden love, you don't have to keep looping in torment. So when I say brain spotting helped me and many others process, and for me in particular, process that goodbye at the bus stop years ago, that I never really got to say. I mean, it showed me how healing can happen without conditions, without needing the other person in the room, without needing the perfect explanation. It basically gave me closure on my terms, gave my nervous system the relief. And that's why I believe, if the fandom theory is true, and I do believe it's true, that if Harry and Louis, if their relationship didn't survive, God forbid, that they could find incredible relief from this kind of work because their bond, whether past or present, didn't just shape them. It also wounded them because of the gods above, right? Management. It was unfair fundamentally. And something like brain spotting could help metabolize those wounds. So the story stops being only about secrecy and pain and becomes one of integration and resilience. In the end, love that had to be hidden doesn't have to stay unprocessed.